Vietnam has other sources of energy. So 30% of our energy is from hydropower, another 30% is from coal, and another 20% is from renewable. And actually, one of the silver lining of this could be that it accelerates the drive towards renewable energy.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yuri, your host of the PWM Tea Break, and I'm delighted to welcome back a previous visitor to the FT studios, Thuy Anh Nguyen, product specialist at Vietnam Enterprise Investments, part of Dragon Capital. We've still got this tea on the go from last time, your extra strong Vietnamese tea.
Well, I'm so glad you like it. You know, it's the only tea that I drink these days.
Absolutely, a stable part of our daily routine now here at the FT, Thuy Anh. And it's particularly good for that midweek boost because it gives you a little bit of a kick, this tea. And one thing that's had a kick recently is the oil price surging above $100 a barrel after the conflagrations in the Middle East. And firstly, our hearts go out to all the people who are losing their lives because there are many fatalities. And one of our commentators has said this goes far beyond the normal flare-ups in the Middle East because it affects the US, China, all the Asian economies.
As you know, about 80% of the oil that go through the Strait of Hormuz is destined for Asian importers, right? And Vietnam is one of them. There has not been a shortage, but of course there will be price increase, as you mentioned, will be feeding through. So that will probably create some inflationary pressure. That along with disruption in logistics, right? It will increase inflation. Vietnam has other sources of energy. So 30% of our energy is from hydropower. Another 30% is from coal, and another 20% is from renewable. And actually, one of the silver lining of this could be that it accelerates the drive towards renewable energy.
Tan, you're talking about a potential spark for transformation. And we're entering the Chinese year of the fire horse. But last year was the year of the snake. Is there a notion that Vietnam has been shedding an old snake skin and growing a new one?
Just as the snake shed its skin every year so that it can grow. So in Vietnam last year, we went through quite a sweeping program of reforms aimed at stimulating growth to a new level of 10%. So for the last couple of decades, we have managed to grow at about 6.5% per annum. And that is the most sweeping program of reforms for the last 40 years. Private enterprise is not just allowed, but it is going to be empowered to be at the front and center of the economy. Export has been, and trade has been the driving engine of the economy. But now the idea is to leverage of that and focus more and creating the condition more for the domestic economy to develop, you know, through private consumption and private investment. So you see, for example, if you go to Vietnam now, there's massive infrastructure investment taking place. There's a new airport, high-speed rail that's going to cost $65 billion and it will shorten the travel time from the north to the south from the current 36 hours to 5 hours. In the year of the horse, we are expecting to see acceleration into higher ground,
galloping ahead.
Yes.
But you've talked about the physical infrastructure, but there's also the digitalization. And Vietnam is, I think, is the first country which has really brought in the legislation of artificial intelligence. Has been fascinating because that's a trend we write about all the time. When you go to Vietnam and other regional economies, the delivery of the wealth management, do the clients prefer the digitalized delivery or the face-to-face?
The entrepreneurs and the family offices who come to us, they are still much preferring the face-to-face delivery. The high net worth individuals in Vietnam, they are mainly first-generation entrepreneurs. So now they are in their late 50s or 60s. They still very much like the face-to-face, and also because for them now it's not about making a few extra percent. It's more to do with family constitutions, inheritance planning, how to transfer to the next generations and prepare them to take over the business and the wealth. So that kind of conversation. They still prefer it to be delivered in person.
The family offices we've been speaking to here, it's about data centers, data infrastructure, it's about longevity, it's about healthcare. Does that match the kind of preferences that your investors and families have?
For the international family offices that invest in Vietnam through Dragon Capital, their interest is very much along the theme of the demographic dividend and the young population that you mentioned and all the trends that go with it. And for the local family offices and high net worth that invest with us, their interest is very much now along the line of ESG. So one high net worth person in particular, he said all of the money that he invests through us have to be in strategies with very high ESG score, and it's simply because he say, "Oh, I want my next generations to be in a cleaner world, in a better governed society."
We had an article speaking with the Finnish Alstrom family, and they're doing a lot of work in Vietnam, as you know, with UNICEF, and they're looking at disabled children in particular, how they've been stigmatized by society, how they've been locked up in their homes, and now with the work they've been doing, these kids have all started going to school, they've started taking part in society, in sport and all these activities, which are absolutely wonderful.
The biggest shareholders in Vail is a philanthropic foundation. So these things are very important for them. Last year there was a big devastating flood in the central region, and one of our top portfolio managers, she not just coordinates the raising the fund within the organization, having top management top it up with their own money, but also coordinates finding the people who need the help and going there. One example of the many things that we get involved in. And also our founder, Dominic Scriven, OBE, he's an Englishman actually. One of the things that he's involved with is to help research program, coordinate, bring the right people together to help farmers find new species of rice plants that can deal with the climate change. You know, there's seawater coming in, salinity is infecting the fresh water, so we need new species of rice plant to deal with it, to maintain the crop.
You're looking for the quintessential rice formula, and I think you've definitely found the secret tea formula, because that's giving me a much needed midweek boost, as indeed are the ideas that you're sharing with us, Thuy Anh. They're very inspiring indeed. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Yuri. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
And for now, ladies and gentlemen, sadly, that's all we have time for. So please start preparing your questions for our forthcoming episodes, when we will be discussing the impact of AI on wealth management, and also investing in alternative sources of energy to oil and gas, supplies of which are currently being restricted by the crisis in the Middle East. I will see you all next week, when we will reconvene for the next episode of the PWM Tea Break.